What's up everyone, this is Squeaky Clean coming to you for another installment of some tips and tricks. Today what I'm doing is I'm going to show you guys how to check for leaks on the bench. This is also, you could apply the same principle when you're checking for leaks on the car as well if you have any air suspension. So this is just some of the stuff that I do personally, so my workout for you, hopefully it works out for you, and some tips. So here we go. So over here, what I did is I've inflated a bag in order to check it for leaks. So with a lot of these bags, airlift, for a majority of air suspension, as you've noticed, most of them are bag over a specialized coil setup, so they thread onto the actual coilovers and they're sealed from the top. So one of the things that I always check as well is for any leaks on top in terms of sealing of the O-ring, if the O-ring is worn out or anything like that. So as you can see, there's some leak detector fluid applied, but it's not bubbling, it's not creating some extreme bubbles. So which means that it doesn't have any leaks happening. Normally if you would have a leak, you'd see like prominent bubbles forming, and that's not happening right now, so that's cool. What I like to use personally for leak detection, whenever I'm doing leak detection, I like to use one of these guys. I know a lot of times whenever you look at videos online, a lot of the guys and girls that are doing air suspension, they're saying just mix up, soap and water, blah 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 blah. You know what? For those that don't want to bother with that kind of crap, go to Home Depot, buy one of these leak detectors, Masters leak detector. It's a bubble type leak detector. As you can see, it's a non-freezing leak detector, so you can do it outside if you live in temperatures that are below 0 degrees. Like this is good to -37 or -35 Fahrenheit, right? I mean, if you live in California, maybe soap and water will work, but we live in Canada, sometimes that's not an option. So there you go, leak detector. One of these guys I like to really use. It comes with like an applicator, soapy, like a spongy applicator that you can apply to the place that you want to check for leaks, just like that, simple as that. And we would actually see huge bubbles forming right now if this thing had a leak, but it doesn't, so that's pretty good. Same thing as you can see over here for fittings. Let me shine some light. 1 second, I'll get a better look at what's going on. As you can see over here, I've applied some to the fitting as well. As you can see, it's not really bubbling, which means this bag doesn't have a leak. The way I inflate these on the bench is I created a jig, something like that. There's many ways to create an inflation jig. I basically use the T with a gauge that tells me how much pressure I have, an adjustable lever valve, and a quick connect for the airline, and I basically just use my compressor and I just inflate the bag to whatever pressure I want, and that way I can bench test these things and make sure that they're not leaking. So if anybody comes in to me and brings me a strut that's leaking or anything like that, then I can definitely bench test it on the bench. So 2 things today. I prefer to use the leak detector from Masters. It's really good. You can buy it at Home Depot for under 10 bucks. And what I do is I apply it to usually the top, because there's a top O-ring to check if there's any leaks, because it could leak over there, as well as a lot of the times it could leak through the fitting side, which is over here. In this case, this bag is nice and sealed. There is no leaks. We're good to go. Let me show you guys a little bit closer view of how the jig looks like. If it helps you out. All it is essentially, as I said, is if you got a lever here, you got a pressure gauge that tells you what pressure you've inflated to, and now if you want to deflate the bag, you simply just open up this lever and the bag deflates. Simple as that. So here's a couple tricks and tips for you guys whenever you're checking your bags or your air suspension for leaks. Here you go. So hopefully this helps you guys out.